That morning, Atlanta looked grayer than usual. However, my mood was the exact opposite. Kamari, was busy fixing my husband, Galani's tie as he stood tall and imposing in front of the large mirror in our master bedroom. This luxury estate in Buckhead had been the silent witness to our happiness during 5 years of marriage. Or, at least that is what I believed until that very moment. "Baby, are you sure you don't want me to pack you something for the road? The drive to Charlotte is pretty long," I offered softly while patting his broad chest. Galani smiled. It was a smile that always managed to melt my heart. He kissed my forehead for a long time. "No need, my queen. I'm in a rush. The client in Charlotte requested an urgent meeting for tonight. This project is huge for my portfolio. You know, I want to prove to your father that I can succeed without the shadow of your family's name hanging over me." I nodded, feeling proud. Galani was certainly a hard-working husband, though in reality all the capital for his business, the black Cadillac Escalade he drove, and even the designer suits he wore had been bought with my money. It was money from the dividends of the tech firm I inherited from my parents, the company I now ran. But I never made a big deal out of it. In a marriage, the wife's assets belong to the husband, too, don't they? "Be careful, baby. Text me when you get to the hotel," I requested. Jelani nodded, grabbed his keys, and walked out. I watched his back disappear behind the carved mahogany door. A strange sensation washed over me, a tiny gut feeling that I quickly brushed off. I figured it was just the loneliness of being by myself for a few days. That afternoon, after finishing several meetings at the office, my thoughts drifted to Namra, my best friend since our days at Howard University. Yesterday, Namra had texted me saying she was admitted to a hospital in Savannah with a severe case of typhoid fever. Namra was a sweet woman who lived alone in a city where she didn't have much family. I helped her often. Even the small townhouse she occupied in Savannah was one of my properties, and I let her stay there for free out of the kindness of my heart. Poor Namra. She must feel so alone there, I whispered. I checked my watch. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My schedule for the rest of the day was clear. Suddenly, an idea popped into my head. Why not go visit her? Savannah was only about a 4-hour drive, and the traffic wouldn't be too bad yet. I wanted to surprise her, bring her some of her favorite homemade peach cobbler, and some fresh fruit. Without another thought, I called my personal driver, Malik. But then I remembered Malik had taken a sick day, so I decided to drive myself in my red Tesla. The trip to Savannah was peaceful. The whole way there, I imagined the look of joy on Namra's face when she saw me. I also planned to call Galani tonight to tell him I was in Savannah visiting her. I was sure Galani would praise me for being such a kind-hearted wife. At exactly 5 o'clock in the evening, I pulled into the parking lot of an elite private hospital in Savannah. Namra had told me she was in VIP Suite 305. It struck me as a bit odd. Namra didn't have a steady job. Where did she get the money or the insurance to pay for such a luxurious VIP room? But my positive thoughts took over again. Maybe she had savings or, well, I'd just cover the bill myself, I decided. With a large basket of fruit in my hand, I walked through the hospital corridors. They smelled of antiseptic, but still felt high-end. My steps echoed softly on the marble floor. My heart beat slowly, not out of fear, but out of excitement to see my friend. The elevator chimed on the 3rd floor. I stepped out and looked for room 305. The room was at the end of the hall in a secluded and quiet area. When I was about 5 steps from the door, I stopped. The door to Suite 305 was slightly ajar. Maybe a nurse hadn't closed it properly on her way out. I was about to knock, but the sound of laughter from inside froze my hand in midair. "Open wide, baby. Here comes the airplane." It was a man's voice, a terribly familiar voice, the same voice that had said goodbye to me that morning to head to Charlotte. My blood turned to ice. The fruit basket in my hand suddenly felt incredibly heavy. It couldn't be. My mind rejected it. Maybe Galani had stopped by here, but he said he was going to Charlotte, which was in the opposite direction. With trembling hands, I gathered my courage and leaned toward the crack in the door. I held my breath and tried to look inside. The scene I saw destroyed my world in an instant. In the hospital bed, Namra was sitting up, leaning back. Her face wasn't pale at all. She looked fresh, dressed in silk pajamas rather than a hospital gown. And beside her, sitting on the edge of the bed, was Jelani, my husband. Jelani was feeding Namra pieces of apple. The look in his eyes, it was the same look he used to give Muhen when we first got married. It was full of love, of adoration. My wife is so spoiled, Galani said softly as he wiped a bit of food from the corner of Namra's lips with his thumb. My wife. My world crumbled. I felt my legs go weak and had to lean against the wall to keep from falling after hearing that word. Baby, when are you going to tell Kumari? Namabra's voice sounded pampered, a bit whiny. I'm tired of having to hide like this. Love, and especially now that I'm a few weeks pregnant. Our child needs to be recognized. Pregnant. Our child. I felt as if a lightning bolt had split my heart in two. My eyes burned. Tears wanted to flow, but the shock kept me frozen. Jelani set the fruit plate on the nightstand, then took Namra's hands and kissed them repeatedly. Have patience, my life. You know what my situation is. If I ask for a divorce now, I could lose everything. Kumari is smart. All the assets are in her name. The car I drive, this watch, even the capital for the last project, it's all her money. But we've been married in secret for 2 years now. Jelani, are you going to keep being a parasite to her? You said you were a man with a lot of pride. Namra pouted. Jelani chuckled. Exactly. Because of my pride, I need to build up capital first. I'm slowly diverting funds from Kumari's company to my personal account through overcharging on fake projects. Just have patience. As soon as our savings are enough to buy a new house and start our own business, I'll kick Kumari to the curb. Besides, I'm sick of pretending to be sweet to her. She's too dominant, not like you. You're so submissive. Namra let out a crystal-clear laugh. Fine. My Galani is the smartest. Hey, is the house in Savannah safe? Kumari won't claim it. It's safe, baby. The deed isn't in my name yet, but Kumari is a fool. She thinks the house is empty. She doesn't know that the poor friend she's hosting is actually the queen of her husband's heart. They both laughed, a laugh that sounded like a nightmare in my ears. I backed away slowly. I couldn't breathe, as if the oxygen in the hallway had been sucked out by their malice. I wanted to throw the fruit basket in their faces. I wanted to kick the door down, rip Namra's hair out, and slap Jelani until his teeth fell out. But then my father's voice echoed in my head. Kumari, if an enemy attacks, don't counterattack with emotion. Attack when they are off guard. Destroy their foundation, and then watch the whole building fall. I reached a trembling hand into my jacket pocket and pulled out my smartphone. I silenced the sound and activated the video recording. Carefully, I aimed the lens toward the crack in the door. I caught everything. Jelani's face as he kissed Namra's belly. Their conversation about embezzling funds for my company. The confession of their secret marriage. It was all captured clearly in 4K quality. 5 minutes felt like 5 centuries. Once I had enough evidence, I retreated. I walked away from that door step by step, choking back the sobs that were drowning in my throat. When I reached an empty waiting room, I sat on a cold metal chair. I looked at my phone screen. The video was safely saved. My tears finally fell, but only for a moment. I wiped them away harshly. It wasn't worth crying over trash. So this whole time, I whispered to myself, my voice shaking with a rage that was starting to completely incinerate my love. All this time, I've been raising a snake in my own bed. And Namra, the friend I thought was a sister, turned out to be a leech stabbing me in the back. I remembered how Namra cried on my shoulder, saying she had no money for food, and I gave her an extra credit card. I remembered how Galani always made excuses about working late when he was probably rolling around with Namra in the house I bought with my own sweat. The pain slowly transformed into something cold and hard. My heart froze. I opened the mobile banking app on my phone. I had full access to all accounts, including the operations account that Jelani managed because I was the primary owner of the company. My fingers danced quickly over the screen. Click. Check balance. Jelani's business account had $30,000 money that was supposed to be for project operations. Click check transaction history. There were dozens of transfers to boutiques, jewelry stores, and an OBGYN clinic in Savannah. Enjoy your laughs while you can. I hissed. I wouldn't walk into that room now. That would be too easy for them. If I went in now, Jelani would just beg for forgiveness, get on his knees, and Namra would cry for mercy. That wasn't enough. I wanted them to suffer. I wanted them to feel what it was like to have nothing. I wanted Galani to go back to being the broke man he was when I found him at a bus stop 5 years ago. And Namra, I wanted her to know that playing with fire when it comes to Kumari Okoro means getting burned to ashes. I stood up and straightened my jacket. My face was now a mask without expression. My gaze was sharp. Enjoy your honeymoon in the hospital, I whispered. Because tomorrow your hell begins. I left the hospital. Inside the car, I didn't start the engine right away. I immediately called my most trusted man, Kofi, the head of IT and security for my company. Hello, Kofi. My voice sounded cold and authoritative. Yes, Miss Okoro. It's unusual for you to call at this hour. Can I help you with something? Kofi, I need your help tonight. It's urgent and confidential. Of course, ma'am. Your orders are my priority. First, block all access to the platinum credit card Jelani has. Second, temporarily freeze the operations account he manages under the excuse of a sudden internal audit. Third, get the legal team ready for asset recovery. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Kofi was smart enough not to ask too many questions. Understood, ma'am. When does this go into effect? Now, this very second, I want the notification to pop up the moment he tries to make a transaction. Got it. I'm on it. Anything else? One more thing, Kofi. Find the best locksmith and a few heavy-duty security guards. Tomorrow morning, we're paying a visit to the house in Savannah. Understood, ma'am. I hung up the phone. The car engine roared softly as I started it. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. The weak woman who had cried in the hospital hallway was dead. What was left now was Kumari, the CEO, who knew no mercy. I drove through the streets of Savannah. I wouldn't go back to Atlanta tonight. I'd stay in the nearest hotel. I would map out my plan and set the stage for tomorrow's performance. My phone buzzed. A text message from Jelani. My love, I've just arrived in Charlotte. I'm exhausted. Going to sleep now. Kisses. Love you. I laughed cynically as I read the message. My fingers typed a calm response. All right, baby. Rest well. Don't forget to have sweet dreams, because tomorrow you might wake up to a surprising reality. Love you, too. I sent the message. A twisted smile formed on my lips. The game had begun. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of the hotel suite where I was staying. I woke up not from the alarm, but from the adrenaline still pumping through my veins. I had barely slept. My eyes were puffy, but my heart was as hard as steel. I grabbed the phone from the nightstand. 6 o'clock in the morning. I had a message from Kofi. Good morning, Ms. Okoro. Following your instructions, as of 6 a.m. this morning, all financial access in Mr. Galani Mabeso's name connected to the company and joint accounts has been frozen. Corporate credit card status blocked. Online banking access suspended. I have also located the GPS on the company car. Its position is in the parking lot of St. Jude's Hospital in Savannah. I smiled slightly. Good work, I whispered. I got out of bed, ordered breakfast from room service, and then took a hot shower. I had to look perfect today. No puffy eyes, no tired face. I applied a bit more makeup than usual, covering the traces of last night's tears. A deep red lipstick was my final choice, a symbol of courage and war. While I enjoyed my orange juice, I imagined what was happening at the hospital. Jelani was likely just waking up, perhaps preparing to pamper his secret wife with a luxury breakfast. Eat your fill, Jelani, I whispered to my reflection in the mirror. Because after this, you'll forget what it feels like to be full. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Galani was stretching his stiff muscles. Sleeping on a hospital sofa wasn't nearly as comfortable as the king-size bed back at my house. But seeing Namra's face as she slept peacefully made him feel like a hero. Baby. Namra stretched coquettishly, her eyes blinking slowly. I'm hungry. I want some gourmet waffles and strawberries from that brunch spot next door. I'm sick of this bland hospital food. Jelani smiled, stroking Namra's hair. Anything for my princess. Wait here. I'm going downstairs to handle the paperwork to extend your stay in the VIP suite, and then I'll go get you those waffles. I'll have a nurse bring you some hot tea, too. Thanks, my love. Don't be long, okay? Namir wed. Jelani nodded firmly, straightened his slightly wrinkled shirt, ran his fingers through his hair, and walked out of the room with a confident stride. In his pants pocket, a leather wallet full of platinum and black credit cards was ready to be used. He never worried about the price. He just had to swipe and sign. Kamari would pay the bill at the end of the month. He reached the administration desk. A clerk greeted him politely. Good morning, sir. How can I help you? I want to extend the stay for Suite 305 for Namra Vance. I also want to upgrade the meal package to premium and add laundry services, Jelani said with the arrogant tone typical of someone spending money that isn't theirs. Certainly, sir. One moment while I calculate the total additional deposit, the clerk typed quickly. The additional total is $300 for the deposit for the next 3 days and the service upgrades. Sir, easy enough. Jelani pulled out his black card, the one that was actually a benefit for the executives at my company. He laid it on the counter with an air of superiority. The clerk took the card and swiped it. Jelani waited, tapping his fingers on the counter and whistling softly. Beep, beep. The clerk frowned. She swiped the card again. Beep, beep, beep. Excuse me, sir, the clerk said with an awkward look. The card has been declined by the system. Jelani stopped whistling. His brows furrowed. What do you mean? That card has a limit of hundreds of thousands. It's impossible for it to be declined. Try it again. I've already tried twice, sir. The message says, card blocked by issuer. Maybe you got the PIN wrong. I don't use a PIN. It's signature-based. Besides, it's a priority card. Jelani started to get angry. His voice rose, causing several people in the waiting room to turn around. Your machine must be broken. Our machine is working perfectly, sir. Another patient just made a transaction without any issues. The clerk replied, starting to sound clipped. Jelani huffed in annoyance, opened his wallet again, and pulled out a second card, the gold credit card from our joint account. Use this one. The clerk tried again. Silence for a moment. Beep, beep. Same thing, sir. Declined. The message says, insufficient funds. Jelani's face began to turn a deep red. Beads of sweat appeared on his temples. His heart beat hard. Insufficient funds? Impossible. That account held the monthly operating funds I had just transferred the day before. Hey, don't play with me. I'm a businessman, Jelani shouted, trying to hide his panic with anger. Could you try calling your bank, sir? I just operate the machine. The clerk was now looking at him with suspicion, a look that made Jelani's pride feel trampled. With trembling hands, Jelani gathered his cards and walked away from the counter to find a quiet corner. He pulled out his phone and opened the mobile banking app. Log in. The screen spun. A loading icon that seemed to last forever. Then a red notification appeared. Access denied. Your user ID has been temporarily frozen. Please contact customer service. What is going on? Jelani cursed under his breath. He tried another account. His personal account, the one he used to receive the embezzled funds. Balance 0. Jelani's eyes nearly popped out of his head. The $30,000 he had seen the previous afternoon had vanished. 0. Absolutely nothing. Impossible. It couldn't be a hack. Jelani began to truly panic. His hands shook violently as he held the phone. His mind immediately focused on one name. Kamari. Does she know? No. Impossible. If she knew, she would have confronted me already. Kamari is emotional. She doesn't know how to play it cool. This must be a bank system error or an office audit. Jelani tried to calm himself. He had to call Kamari. He had to act. He took a deep breath, adjusting his tone to sound authoritative, but slightly confused. My phone rang. The name my love appeared on the screen. I was sipping hot tea at that moment. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hello, baby. Are you up already? How's Charlotte? I greeted him with a cheerful faked tone. Hey my queen. Jelani's voice sounded shaky. Yeah, just woke up. Hey, Kumari, I wanted to ask. Is there some problem at the office or some surprise bank audit? Not that I know of, baby. Everything is running smoothly. Why do you ask? I said innocently. It's really weird. I was going to pay for a breakfast for a client at the hotel, but all my credit cards were declined. Online banking isn't working either. You didn't happen to block something by mistake in the central system? I let out a small laugh. A laugh that surely made Jelani's skin crawl without him knowing why. For heaven's sake, baby, why would I block my own husband? Maybe the bank system is down, love. Or maybe you've hit the limit. What have you been buying this month? I haven't bought anything. Just the usual. Jelani defended himself quickly. I was so embarrassed in front of the client. Hey baby, can you transfer some cash to a friend's account? I just can't get into mine. Transfer. I tapped on the table. Gee, Kofi has the company token. And Kofi took the day off today because he's sick. He isn't answering. I left my personal token in the home safe, too. I'm out right now on my way to a spa. Kumari, it's an emergency. Can't you make an effort? I need money now. Jelani started to lose control of his emotions. His voice rose. My smile disappeared. I stared straight ahead. How dare he shout at me while begging for my own money? Jelani, I called out coldly. Why are you shouting at me? You're the one who goes on a business trip without preparing any cash, and then you blame me. Besides, you're in Charlotte dealing with a client. Can't the client cover it for now? Or are you not actually with a client? That question left Jelani speechless. A long silence on the other end of the line. Of course I'm with a client. What I mean is I feel awkward asking to borrow. Whatever. I'll figure it out. You're a wife who can't be trusted when her husband is in trouble. Click. The call was cut off unilaterally by Jelani. I looked at the dark phone screen. A wife who can't be trusted. I let out a cynical laugh. Wait until you realize that this useless wife is the owner of the very air you breathe. In the hospital, Jelani slammed his phone against the sofa in the waiting room. His breathing was heavy. He patted his pockets and wallet, counting the cash he had left. $50 was all he had. Meanwhile, the hospital deposit they were asking for was $300, not to mention Namra's craving for waffles. With a slumped gait and his pride shattered, Jelani returned to room 305. He entered with a scowl. Where are my waffles, babe? Namra asked excitedly when she saw him enter, but her smile faded when she saw his empty hands. Hey, why didn't you bring anything? Jelani sat on the edge of the bed, massaging his temples. The place was closed. Liar. It's a brunch spot open until 3 p.m. Are you being cheap, or do you just not have money? Namra began to whine irritably. Her true demanding nature came out when her desires weren't met. It's not that, Namra. My credit cards are having a problem. Seems like the banking system is down nationwide. I can't withdraw cash. Jelani excused himself, reluctant to admit his access had been blocked. And then what am I supposed to eat? I don't like hospital soup. Namra threw a pillow at Jelani. Eat what they have. I'll look for a loan this afternoon. Jelani shouted. The stress made him accidentally yell at the woman he supposedly loved. Namra was stunned. Her eyes filled with tears. You're yelling at me. You're cruel. You used to promise me the whole world, and now you can't even buy me waffles. The atmosphere in room 305 heated up. A small fight began to brew. Meanwhile, outside, the real storm was approaching. 10 o'clock in the morning. I had already checked out of the hotel. My red Tesla glided through the streets of Savannah toward a residential area on the outskirts. Behind me, a black SUV followed. Inside were Kofi, 2 security guards in black uniforms, and a locksmith. My destination wasn't the hospital. I'd let Jelani rot there in his confusion. My destination was the Thieves' Den, the minimalist modern house in the exclusive neighborhood where Namra lived. That house was one of my first real estate properties. I bought it in cash before I married Jelani. And stupidly, out of pity for Namra, who told me she'd been kicked out of her rental, I let her live there. It turned out the place had become their love nest. My car stopped right in front of a high black iron gate. The house seemed quiet. Of course, its occupants were on a romantic retreat at the hospital. I stepped out of the car, wearing sunglasses. Kofi and his team immediately got out and stood behind me. "Is this the house, ma'am?"
Kofi asked.
"Yes, this is my house stained by trash," I replied curtly. The neighborhood security guard, seeing our group, approached with an alert look. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can I help you? Who are you?" I took off my sunglasses and looked at the guard. "I am Kamari Okoro, the legal owner of this house. I wish to enter my property. Nobody is going to stop me." The guard was stunned. He recognized the Okoro name, a family that owned many assets in the area. "Oh, excuse me, Ms. Okoro, but Ms. Vance hasn't informed us of any visitors. Namra is just a guest here, sir, and today I cut him off firmly. I turned to the locksmith. "Sir, open the lock. If it's difficult, break it. I'll pay for the damages." "At your command, ma'am." The sound of a drill and a saw broke the morning silence of the luxury neighborhood. The neighbors began to peek out of their windows, but I didn't care. I stood tall, arms crossed.
Click.
The gate opened. I walked into the yard. The lawn was well manicured. Parked there was Jelani's sport motorcycle, the one he claimed he had sold a year ago. Lie after lie kept coming to light. We reached the front door. The locksmith went to work again. In a short time, the mahogany door swung wide open. The cold air from the air conditioning greeted me, and as I walked into the living room, my eyes caught something that made my blood boil again. On the living room wall hung a massive pre-wedding photograph. Galani and Namra embracing tenderly with the Eiffel Tower in the background. Jelani's business trip to Paris last month, the one he supposedly went on alone. "Excellent," I said, my voice trembling as I held back my rage. "Kofi." "Yes, ma'am. Take everything out of this house." "Everything. The clothes, the furniture, these disgusting photos. Put it all in a truck or just pile it up on the front lawn. I want this house empty before the sun goes down." "Got it. Understood, ma'am." "And where should we send their things?" I looked at the photo of Jelani's fake smile. "Don't send them anywhere. Piled them in front of the gate so they can be a show for the neighbors. And as for this photo," I grabbed a vase from the table and threw it with all my strength at the frame. Crash. The glass of the frame shattered, tearing their happy faces in the photo. "Burn it," I added coldly. I walked toward the master bedroom. I was going to recover what was mine and leave them without a roof over their heads when they came home. My phone buzzed again. A message from the bank. Notification of failed transaction attempt at St. Jude's Hospital for the amount of $1,500 with a platinum credit card. Jelani was trying to pay for something expensive, maybe a procedure or just a forced deposit. He was starting to panic. I smiled with satisfaction. "Keep struggling, Galani. This is only the beginning." My steps felt heavy but firm as I entered the master bedroom of that house. A strong scent of Jo Malone perfume, English Perinthia, hit my nostrils, the same perfume I used. Apparently, Namra didn't just want to steal my husband. She wanted to be me. The room was messy with clothes scattered on chairs and traces of makeup all over the vanity. In a corner, a large teak wardrobe stood imposing. I yanked it open. A row of designer handbags greeted my eyes. A Hermes Birkin, a Chanel classic flap, a Louis Vuitton Neverfull. Bags whose prices were equivalent to a mid-sized car, perfectly aligned. My heart shrank as I recognized a gray Dior saddlebag. It was the bag I had been looking for last month at my house. Jelani told me it had probably been misplaced in storage. Wow, turns out the bag was here, being used by his mistress. "Damn you," I muttered under my breath. I pulled the bags out one by one, throwing them onto the floor like they were trash. "Kofi," I shouted. Kofi rushed in. "Yes, ma'am. Load all these bags. They are my property. Put them in my car. Don't mix them with the junk we're throwing in the yard."
"Got it."
Once the wardrobe was empty, my eyes landed on a small metal safe hidden in the bottom, covered by a pile of blankets. A digital safe. I knelt in front of it. My heart beat hard. What was Galani hiding here? I tried to guess the combination. Jelani's birthday. Error. Namra's birthday. I checked the HR files on my phone. Namra had applied for a job at my office once. I entered the date. Error. Our wedding date. Error. I paused for a moment, trying to think like Galani. Jelani was narcissistic, but also sentimental in his own twisted way. Or maybe he was just stupid. I reached out and pressed 6 digits, the date they started dating. I remembered that date because I had seen it on a small tattoo on Jelani's wrist that he'd gotten last month. He said it was just art. Tick-tick-click. The indicator light turned green. The safe door opened slowly. I held my breath. My eyes went wide at the contents. It wasn't just money. Inside the safe were stacks of bills, maybe $10,000 in cash. But that wasn't what made my blood boil. On top of the bills were 2 small books, a green one and a maroon one, a family record book, and underneath a secret marriage certificate. My hand shook as I grabbed the documents. I opened them. A photo of Jelani and Namra side by side with a blue background, smiling broadly. The date of their wedding was from 2 years ago. 2 years?
Yes.
A tear fell without permission, landing right on Jelani's face in the photo. 2 years sleeping next to a traitor. 2 years financing the life of his second wife, without knowing it. Under the certificate, I found a small black notebook, a ledger. I opened it. It contained Jelani's neat handwriting. January 2023. Cash withdrawn. Savannah Project. $2,500 deposited into Namra's account. Bought necklace March 2023. Catering provider search charge office $800. Down payment for car for Namra's sister. June 2023. Sale of Kumari's diamond ring supposedly lost. $10,000 for vacation in Atha. My breath hitched. My chest tightened painfully. My grandmother's ring lost a year ago. Jelani said it probably fell off while I was washing my hands at a mall. He even faked a panic while helping me look for it. It turns out he had stolen it. He sold my family heirloom to finance a vacation for this woman. The rage burning in me turned into a deadly cold. I didn't feel sadness anymore. I felt disgust. I took my phone and photographed every page of the notebook, the secret marriage certificate, and the stacks of money. This wasn't just proof of infidelity. It was proof of a crime, embezzlement, theft, and financial fraud. You won't just be broke, Galani, I whispered to the black notebook. You'll rot in prison. I emptied the contents of the safe, putting the money, the documents, and some gold jewelry that was in there into my briefcase. When I left the room, the living room was already completely empty. Kofi and his team were working incredibly fast. The sofa, the TV, the dining table, everything had been moved out. The house was now just an echo of bare walls. It's all clear, ma'am, Kofi reported.
Good.
Now change all the locks. Chain the gate with the biggest chain you can find. Put a sign at the entrance. Urgent sale.
Got it.
Understood, ma'am. And Namra's things in the yard. I walked toward the patio. On the green lawn now sat a mountain of trash made up of Namra's clothes, shoes, plastic furniture, and cosmetics. The neighbors were starting to gather behind the fences, whispering and pointing. I looked at the pile. Leave it there. If it rains, let it get wet. If some junk collector wants to take it, go ahead. It's my last act of charity for Namra. Meanwhile, at St. Jude's Hospital, Jelani was sitting in a chair in the cafeteria with a grim face. In front of him was only a glass of water. His stomach was growling, but the stress had taken away his appetite. The administration staff had just called him again. Final notice. Pay the $300 deposit by noon or Namra would have to leave the VIP suite. Damn it. Why won't any card work? Jelani ruffled his hair in frustration. He had tried to call the office, but his secretary told him, I'm sorry, Mr. Mabeso. The HR system is down. We can't process advances, and Ms. Okero is unreachable. Galani knew it was strange, but he refused to believe that Kumari was behind all of this. In his eyes, Kumari was a naive wife who was madly in love. Kumari wouldn't be capable of doing this, baby. Namabra's voice interrupted his thoughts. Jelani turned. Namra had come down to the cafeteria, pushing her for pole with difficulty. She had a scowl on her face. Why are you taking so long? You said you were going to get money. The doctor says, I need a medicine to strengthen the pregnancy that costs $100. I need to buy it now. Jelani swallowed hard. $100 in his wallet. He only had $10 left after putting gas in the car. Namra, have patience. I'm trying. My friends aren't picking up the phone. Jelani excused himself. Trying what? You're just sitting here doing nothing. Namra started to raise her voice. You said you were rich. You said your wife was just a cash cow. Where's the proof? You can't even buy medicine for your own child. Those words slapped Jelani's ego. He looked at the Rolex Submariner on his wrist. It was authentic. A birthday gift from me last year. Its price was around $10,000. Jelani grit his teeth. I have no other choice. Wait here. Don't move. Jelani ordered Namra. Jelani rushed out of the hospital. He remembered a luxury second-hand watch shop on a nearby street. He quickened his pace under the scorching sun. Sweat soaked his shirt. Upon reaching the shop, Jelani took off the watch immediately. I want to sell this fast. I need cash, Jelani told the owner. A middle-aged man with glasses. The man examined the watch with a magnifying glass. Rolex Submariner authentic, still in good condition. Do you have the box and papers, sir? Jelani shook his head. I don't have them on me. They're back in Atlanta. I'm selling it as is. The man smiled sideways. He knew Jelani was in a weak position. Well, if you don't have the papers, the price drops a lot, sir. It could be stolen, you know. I'm not a thief. I'm a businessman. Jelani shouted, offended. It's my watch. Yes, sir. I believe you, but rules are rules. Without papers, I can only offer you $1,000. What? Jelani's eyes went wide. Are you crazy? Its second-hand value is at least $7,000. That's if it were complete, sir. Without papers, this is what it is. Take it or leave it. Jelani clenched his fists. $1,000 was an insult, but he needed that money right now for the hospital deposit, for Namra's medicine, for food, and for gas to get back to Atlanta to collect the car documentation. Fine, 1,000. Give it to me now, Jelani said in a hoarse voice, holding back his rage. 10 minutes later, Jelani walked out of the shop with a feeling of emptiness. His wrist felt light without the luxury watch. The last symbol of his status had disappeared. He only had $1,000 in his pocket, an amount he normally spent on a single dinner with clients, using my money. Back at the hospital, Jelani proudly threw $300 in cash onto the counter. Here's the deposit paid. The rest is for the medicine, he said arrogantly. The receptionist took the money without expression. Very well, sir. We've received it, but I regret to inform you that there is additional information from the attending physician now that Ms. Vance's condition seems to have a small complication. She will need 3 more days of observation. The estimated cost has increased by about $2,000 more. Jelani felt like he was going to faint. Of the money from the watch sale, he only had $700 left. If he paid it all, he'd be left with nothing again.
Fine, fine.
I'll pay the rest later. Just make sure she's treated now. Jelani walked back to the VIP room. Upon entering, Namra was busy with her phone. Jelani! Jelani! Namra shouted in panic when she saw him. Her face was as pale as paper, paler than when she was sick. What's wrong? Does your stomach hurt again? Jelani asked worried. It's not that. A neighbor from the Savannah house sent me a video in the neighborhood WhatsApp group. Namra handed him the phone with trembling hands. Jelani snatched it. An amateur video was playing on the screen. The video showed Namra's house in Savannah. The gate was wide open. In the front yard, piles of clothes and furniture were stacked like trash. And most shockingly, a large red sign was hammered in front of the gate. Private property under surveillance of the owner, Kamari Okoro. Entry forbidden to unauthorized persons, especially mistresses. And in the video, you could see my red Tesla driving away from the scene. Jelani's heart stopped for a moment. The phone fell from his hands to the floor. Kamari, Jelani whispered. His face was as white as a sheet. She knows I'm in Savannah. Jelani, those are my things. My bags, my clothes. Why are they throwing them out like trash? Nimra screamed hysterically. You said the house was safe. You said Kamari was a fool. Now I'm homeless. Jelani. Jelani took a step back, hitting the wall. His legs were giving out. The truth hit him like a truck. The banking access blocked. The credit cards canceled. The house raided. Kamari was in Savannah. It wasn't a system glitch. It was war. Jelani quickly searched for his own phone.
He had to call Kamari.
He had to deny it. He had to flip the situation. Dialing my queen. The call was answered. Hello, baby. Kamari's voice sounded calm. Too calm. In the background, Jelani could hear the sound of smooth jazz and the soft purr of a car engine. Kamari, where are you? Jelani shouted without preamble. I'm on my way back to Atlanta, baby. Why do you sound so worked up?
Don't lie.
You were at the house in Savannah. You threw my friend's things out. What does this mean? There was a small, cold laugh on the other end of the line. A laugh that made Jelani's skin crawl. So you admit it's your friend's house. You didn't tell me you were in Savannah. You said you were in Charlotte. Checkmate. Jelani fell silent. His mouth opened, but no sound came out.
Jelani.
My voice became sharp as a blade. How does it feel to sell your precious Rolex at a pawn shop? They didn't give you much for it, did they? What a shame. It was a limited edition. Jelani stammered. He felt as if he had been stripped naked. Kamari knew everything, every move. I know everything, Jelani. I heard the airplane voice. I know about that child. I know about the secret marriage certificate in the safe. And I know about my grandmother's ring you sold. Silence. Only Jelani's heavy breathing could be heard. Listen to me carefully, Jelani, I continued, my tone full of power. Enjoy the $700 you have left in your hand, because it's the last money you'll touch in your life. Don't you dare come back to my house in Buckhead. The locks have already been changed, and the security guards have your photo with orders to bar your entry.
Kamari, wait.
Can we talk about this? I can explain, Jelani begged. His tears started to fall out of pure fear.
Explain it to the judge, Jelani.
See you in the earthly hell I've just built for you.
Click.
The connection was cut. Jelani slid down to the hospital floor. His phone slipped from his hands. His world went dark. In front of him, Namra was still screaming hysterically, lamenting her knockoff bags that had been discarded. But Jelani no longer heard her. In his ears, only one phrase echoed. See you in hell. The atmosphere inside the Cadillac Escalade was silent, but tense. The air felt heavy, as if filled with gunpowder, about to explode. Jelani was driving with stiff hands, gripping the steering wheel. His gaze was lost on the highway stretching before him, while his mind was a whirlwind of fear, denial, and the last vestiges of arrogance. Beside him, Namra sat clutching her knees. Her face was still pale. She'd had her four removed by force at her own request. They decided to leave the hospital despite the doctor's orders. The reason was simple. Their money was running out. From the sale of Jelani's watch, only $600 remained after paying the administration fees and gas. Baby, go a little slower. My stomach hurts with all these bumps, Namra protested. Shut up, Namra. I'm thinking, Jelani snapped without looking at her. We have to get to Atlanta before the office closes. I have to go to the headquarters. I have to talk to Kamari before she poisons everyone's mind. Are you sure Kamari will even see you? She sounded terrifying on the phone. Nami whispered, starting to lose her nerve. Kamari is just bluffing, Jelani muttered, trying to convince himself. He let out a hollow laugh. I've known her for 5 years. She's a soft woman who needs a man. I'm sure she's just mad right now. If I go, I'll beg for forgiveness. I'll get on my knees to she'll cave. At most, I'll have to pretend to cry a little. Besides, this company has grown thanks to my contribution, too. The clients trust me, not Kamari. If she fires me, her company will go bankrupt.
She needs me.
The stupidity and male ego are truly extraordinary. Jelani forgot that it was he who had always needed Kamari's name to even sit at the negotiation table. 3 hours later, in the Buckhead neighborhood of Atlanta, Jelani's car turned to enter the luxury residential complex. His heart beat hard as he saw the roof of his opulent house peeking through the trees. That house was his palace, the place where he felt like a king. But as the car approached the 10-feet-high iron gate, Jelani slammed on the brakes. The gate was closed and secured with a massive iron chain. In the security booth, it wasn't old Mr. Henry, the kind elderly guard. Instead, there were 2 burly men in tight black uniforms and sunglasses. Jelani honked the horn insistently. One of the large men stepped out of the booth and walked calmly toward the car. His face was expressionless. Jelani rolled down the window. "Open the gate. I'm the owner of the house," Jelani shouted. The man leaned in slightly to see Jelani's face and then looked at a photo he was holding. He shook his head. "I'm sorry. You are barred from this area." "What? Are you crazy?" "I'm Galani, the husband of Miss Kamari Okoro. Get out of the way or I'll run you over," Jelani threatened, his face turning red. "Go ahead. If you want to crash into a steel gate, sir, your car will be totaled and you'll be heading back to the hospital," the man replied calmly. "The instructions from the owner, Miss Kamari Okoro, are that Mr. Jelani and Miss Namra are forbidden from setting foot on this property. This is my house, too. It's marital property." The man showed him a photocopy taped to the booth. It was a copy of the prenuptial agreement. According to this legal document, this house is 100% the property of Miss Kamari Okoro, inherited from her parents. You have no rights here. And these, the man pointed to 2 large suitcases on the dusty sidewalk. "These are your personal effects, sir. Work clothes and underwear. The rest has been confiscated as evidence of embezzlement." Jelani looked at the 2 suitcases with glassy eyes. Just that 5 years of a luxury life, and he was leaving with 2 suitcases of used clothes. "Baby, the neighbors are watching," Namra whispered, embarrassed. It was true. Several neighbors' cars passing by slowed down. People saw Galani held outside his own gate, like a beggar. The whispering began, and an immense shame washed over Jelani's back. Damn it. Jelani hit the steering wheel. He had no other choice. He couldn't take on those 2 giant guards. "We're going to the office now." Jelani spun the wheel sharply, making a U-turn and leaving his palace behind. Now closed forever. The office building in Midtown Atlanta, 25th floor, headquarters of Aero Global. Jelani walked into the lobby with a determined step. He was wearing the same shirt from the day before, wrinkled and smelling of sweat, but he tried to keep his chin up. Namra followed him with her head down, fearful of being recognized by her former classmates or colleagues. Jelani headed for the automatic turnstiles and swiped his access card.
Beep.
Access denied. Jelani tried again.
Beep.
"Mr. Mabeso." A security guard for the building greeted him. "Your card isn't working. Open the gate for me manually," Jelani ordered. "I'm sorry, Mr. Mabeso. Your access was revoked by the management of Okoro Global this morning. You're not permitted to go up. I am the director of operations. I want to see my wife."
"Get out of the way."
Jelani tried to force his way through, pushing the guard. A scuffle broke out. Other guards rushed in to restrain Galani. People in the lobby, employees, visitors, couriers, began to watch the free drama. "Let me go. I want to go up,"
Galani shouted, struggling. Ding.
The door of the VIP elevator opened. The atmosphere suddenly went silent. Out of it stepped a figure, Kamari. I looked stunning in an impeccable white suit that enhanced my silhouette. My hair was gathered in an elegant bun, and my Christian Louis Vuitton heels clicked firmly on the marble floor. Behind me were Kofi and the company's legal team. I approached, stopping 10 feet from Galani, who was being held by 2 guards. I looked at him from head to toe with obvious contempt. "What do you want here, Galani?" "Making a scene at my office." My voice was calm, but it resonated in the silent lobby.
"Kamari."
Jelani freed himself from the guards and straightened his collar, trying to recover his dignity. "Baby, we need to talk. Don't act like a child." Blocking access, Changing the locks. It's childish. Let's resolve this in my office.
Okay.
I laughed softly, a cold laugh. Your office. That office has already been cleared out. The nameplate with your name was thrown in the trash this morning. You can't fire me just like that. I have shares here. Shares that I gifted to you for your birthday. Too bad the clause specified that the shares are voided if the recipient commits a crime that harms the company. And you? I threw a brown folder at his chest. The folder hit him, and its contents scattered across the floor. Photos of the secret marriage, proof of transfers to Namra's account, evidence of overcharging on fake projects, photos of the black ledger from the Savannah safe. The employees watching began to whisper loudly. Their eyes went wide as they saw the photos. Namra, who was behind Jelani, tried to cover her face with her hair. You have embezzled $200,000 from the company over 2 years to finance this woman, I said, pointing at Namra. That is a felony, Galani. My legal team already filed the complaint with the police an hour ago. Jelani's face turned as pale as wax. His legs shook. Kumari, don't joke. Prison? We're husband and wife. Ex-husband? I corrected him sharply. The divorce petition has already been filed today. And since the evidence of infidelity and crimes is so overwhelming, I assure you that you will leave this marriage without a cent.
No.
Jelani took a step forward, trying to grab my hand. Kumari, please. I messed up. It was Namra who seduced me. I love you, Kumari. For heaven's sake, Galani, Namra shouted, not accepting the blame. You are the one who said Kumari was a fool and boring. Don't try to wash your hands of this. Shut up, Galani screamed at Namra and then looked back at me with pleading eyes. Kumari, give me a chance. I'll leave Namra. I'll fix everything. I pulled my hand back sharply. Too late. I once loved you because I thought you were a simple and sincere man. Turns out you're just a greedy parasite. Now get out of my sight before the police come to drag you away. I turned around, signaling to Kofi. Suddenly, a man in a leather jacket approached. Excuse me, Mr. Mabeso. I'm from the finance company. The Cadillac Escalade out there is in the name of Okoro Global. Ms. Okoro has reported the unauthorized use of the unit. Where are the keys? It's my company car. You are no longer an employee. The keys, or we call the police right now. Jelani stood petrified. His pride was being stripped away layer by layer in front of hundreds of eyes. With trembling hands, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the car keys. The man snatched them from him. Thank you. I, already heading for the elevator, stopped for a moment and looked back without expression. Enjoy the walk, Galani. Oh, and be careful out there. Atlanta is hot today, especially without air conditioning. The elevator doors closed, taking the queen back to her throne. Downstairs, Galani and Namra were left standing in the middle of the lobby, homeless, jobless, carless, and without dignity. Baby. Namra touched his arm. How do we get back? My bags are heavy. Jelani looked at Namra with pure hatred.
How? By bus.
Figure it out yourself. Because of you, I'm ruined. Galani walked out of the building with a clumsy gait, dragging his heavy suitcase. The scorching Atlanta sun burned his skin. On the curb, he saw the Escalade he had so often bragged about being towed away by a truck. Now he was truly alone in the asphalt jungle. The money in his wallet was decreasing by the second, and above, from the window of the 25th floor, I looked down, holding a glass of wine. The first act is over, I whispered. Now it's time to let them devour each other. The Atlanta sun at noon is no friend to those who walk, even less so to those who have just fallen from heaven. The sidewalk in front of the luxury office building seemed to bake the soles of the feet, reflecting the heat of the asphalt mixed with the dust of the city. Jelani stood paralyzed at the side of the road. His expensive shirt was now soaked in sweat. Beside him, 2 large suitcases remained stiff. Nimra was sitting on one of them, massaging her feet, which were aching from wearing high heels. Shoes that now looked ridiculous on a cracked sidewalk. Baby, it's so hot. Namra complained, fanning her face with her hand. Order a luxury Uber. I don't want to get into a normal one. They smell like old tobacco. Jelani turned slowly, looking at Namra with eyes re-aimed by stress. Luxury? Are you serious? Do you think we're on vacation? We're homeless, Namra. Don't yell, Namra replied, though her voice shook. I'm pregnant with your child. If I get stressed, something could happen to the baby. Do you want to be responsible? Always her weapon, the pregnancy. Jelani sighed sharply, holding back the urge to abandon her right there. He pulled out his phone. The screen was slightly cracked. He opened a rideshare app. His fingers hesitated. The balance on his electronic wallet was zero. He had to pay in cash. A premium ride costs $30 to the nearest 3-star hotel. An economy ride costs $10 to a dense residential area. Jelani chose the cheapest one. No, we're going to a budget motel, he muttered. Then where? Don't tell me we're going to your parents' place in the sticks. How embarrassing, Jelani, returning with suitcases and a cheap taxi, Namra protested. We're looking for a boarding house, Jelani decided firmly. We only have $700 left. If we stay in a hotel, it'll be gone in a week. We need a cheap monthly place until I find a new job. Namra's face transformed into a mask of horror. A boarding house. Jelani. I have never lived in one in my life. In college, my uncle paid for an apartment. Now I'm going to degrade myself like this. Either that or you sleep under a bridge. Jelani snapped before dragging the suitcases toward a dented Toyota that had just pulled up. The ride in the car was silent and torturous. During the trip, Jelani frantically searched internet portals for cheap rooms for couples Atlanta. The options were limited. Jelani realized that without a paycheck, without references, and with limited funds, they couldn't rent a proper apartment. The choice fell on a boarding house in a narrow alley in a rough part of the city. Alley of Lost Souls number 4, the driver read with a doubtful voice. Sir, I don't think the car can get all the way to the door. The alley is too narrow. Leave us at the entrance of the alley. Jelani replied, resigned. Upon arrival, reality slapped them with more force. They got out at the mouth of a dirty alley. Stagnant dark water filled the potholes. The smell of sewage mixed with that of fried food from a nearby bar. Jelani, are you serious? Namra covered her nose. Jelani didn't care anymore. His eyes filled with tears as he looked at the dark passage in front of them. Walk, he ordered. Jelani dragged the 2 heavy suitcases alone as Namra refused to touch them. The wheels of the luxury suitcases squeaked sadly on the uneven pavement. They became the center of attention. Mothers in robes, fathers playing cards. All eyes were on this strange couple. A man in a wrinkled designer shirt, a woman in a pretty dress, and a designer bag dragging suitcases through a sordid alley. Excuse me, ma'am. Jelani asked a woman hanging laundry, where is Mrs. Walker's boarding house? The woman looked him up and down and pointed to a 2-story house with peeling green paint at the end of the alley. The one with the rusty door. They arrived in front of the house. A plywood sign said, Walker's Rooms. Couples accepted. Jelani, a heavy-set, middle-aged woman with rollers in her hair, came out. Looking for a room? She asked bluntly. Yes, ma'am. Do you have any free? Jelani asked politely, lowering his usual authoritative tone. Got one on the 2nd floor in the back. No AC, private bathroom, but with a shared water heater. Electricity is prepaid and water is split $10 a month. Rent is $300 a month with a $100 deposit. You got to pay it all up front. $300? Namra exclaimed under her breath. That's what a facial treatment costs me, Jelani. So cheap it must be horrible. Mrs. Walker glared at her. Listen, girl. If you want something high class, go to a hotel. This is what it is. You want it or not. There's a waiting line. Jelani hurried to grab Namra's arm. We want it, ma'am. We'll take it. Can we see it? They climbed the 2nd floor up a narrow, rusty iron spiral staircase. The room measured 10 by 10 feet, small, very small for them. The walls were painted a faded blue. There were damp spots on the ceiling. The furniture consisted of a thin foam mattress on the floor, a plastic wardrobe with a crooked door, and a small fan that hummed noisily. The bathroom was even more depressing. A shower with a torn plastic curtain and a stained toilet. Namra took a step back, holding back nausea. Jelani, I can't. I swear I can't. It smells like damp. The mattress is so thin. My back will hurt. I'm pregnant. Jelani looked at the room with a broken heart. This was the lowest point of his life.
But he looked at his wallet.
Ma'am, here is the money. $400 for 1 month's rent and the deposit.
We're moving in right now.
Jelani said, handing the bills to Mrs. Walker. Jelani, Namra protested. Shut up, Namra. Get in, Galani shouted. His voice echoed in the hallway. When Mrs. Walker left, Jelani slammed the door shut, took off his tie, threw it on the floor, and let himself fall onto the hard mattress. Namra was still standing by the door, sobbing. You're cruel. Why has our life turned out like this? Kumari, it's all Kumari's fault. Galani laughed cynically, a laugh that sounded like madness. He looked at the moldy ceiling. Yes, Kumari is brilliant. She didn't just take our money. She took our dignity. She put us in this rat hole so we would devour each other. Meanwhile, back in Buckhead, I was sitting in my cool and fragrant office. Kofi was presenting the latest report to me. Surveillance report for day 1, ma'am. Kofi said. I sipped my chamomile tea. Read it to me. The targets, Galani and Namra, were seen checking into a cheap boarding house in a rough part of town around 3:00 p.m. Room without air conditioning, densely populated environment. I smiled slightly. That area has traffic jams. It's hot and noisy. An excellent choice to train their patients. Regarding the job blacklist, I've already spread informal information to the HR network of competing companies and business partners. Kofi continued. The rumor is that they are candidates with legal problems, embezzlement, and serious ethical violations. It's almost certain that no solvent company will dare to hire Mr. Mabeso. Good. Also, make sure they can't access online loans. Their data is already on the credit watch list for unpaid cards, right? Yes, ma'am. His credit score is a disaster. I set my teacup down, stood up, and walked toward the large window overlooking my impeccable pool. Kofi, do you know what hurts an arrogant person the most? Losing their fortune, ma'am. No, I replied softly. What hurts most is hope. The hope that they can still get up when we've already cut off their legs. Let them hope that tomorrow will be better, and then destroy that hope again the next day. I understand, ma'am. Any additional instructions? Send them a welcome gift to their new boarding house, a food package, but make sure the content is something that reminds them of their past, but with an insulting quality. You mean we send them 2 portions of soul food, but only with the broth and the greens, no meat, no sides. And in the note, we write, dietary menu for the new couple sent anonymously by a delivery service. Kofi smiled slightly, a smile of admiration and fear toward his boss. At your command, it will be executed immediately. The first night in their new home at 8 p.m., the neighbors' loud music blasted through the thin walls. The air in the room was suffocating and humid. The small fan only moved the hot air around. Jelani lay on his back, staring at the dusty blades. His stomach was growling. They hadn't eaten since noon. Baby, I'm hungry. Namir whined. She was turned away from him, curled up. Then go out and buy food. There are plenty of places at the entrance of the alley, Galani replied brusquely. I don't want to go out. There were some creepy guys looking at me earlier. You go, Namra complained. Jelani huffed, stood up, and grabbed his wallet. He had about $300 left. What do you want to eat? I feel like sushi or, at least a pizza. Jelani looked at her, with incredulity. Are you crazy? A portion of sushi costs what we need to eat for a week here. Be realistic, Namra. We'll eat a street taco. I don't want street food. It's gross. Think of our baby. Namra started to cry again. When you were with Kumari, you bought her expensive food. With me, you're cheap. Kumari had her own money. You are just a parasite. Jelani shouted. His emotions exploded. Namra went silent, shocked. Jelani breathed deeply. I'll buy you something decent, but not sushi. We LL have fried chicken from a chain nearby. Jelani walked out, slamming the door. In the narrow alley, he walked with his head down. He felt like everyone was watching him. When he returned with a bag of fried chicken, he saw a food package hanging on his door handle. He frowned, grabbed the bag. It smelled like home cooking. There was a note. He read it under the dim light of the hallway. Dietary menu for the new couple from an old friend who cares. Jelani's heart beat hard. He recognized the handwriting. It was Kofi's, but dictated by me. He opened the package with trembling hands. Indeed, inside was only a watery broth with a few greens, no meat, no cornbread, nothing substantial. It was a humiliation. It was a symbolic message. You only deserve to eat the leftovers. Jelani crushed the container. The broth spilled across the hallway floor. His breathing was heavy. Kumari, you are the devil, he growled. He entered the room with a somber face. Namra, seeing that he brought nothing but an angry look, protested. Where is my food? Eat air. Jelani snapped. He threw the bag of fried chicken at her. Eat that, and don't complain anymore. That night they ate in silence. Namra ate the chicken while crying. Jelani ate with a lost gaze, full of vengeance. Outside, the city noises became their mournful lullaby. The next day, financial reality began to haunt Galani. He got up early, showered with cold water, and put on the best shirt he had left. Where are you going? Namra asked. To look for a job? To look for a loan. Galani replied. Stay here. Don't spend. Don't turn on the light. Jelani went to a copy shop to print his resume. His first target, his best friend, David. David was a business partner to whom Galani often gave projects for my company. Hey Galani, what's up? Weird for you to call so early. David's voice sounded cheerful. David, I need help. I have a small family problem. I need a loan, or if you have any freelance projects, I'm available. There was a silence. David's cheerfulness disappeared. Man, I've heard some rumors. Have you had trouble with Miss Okuro? It's not trouble, just a misunderstanding. I'll be back soon, but right now I need liquidity, Jelani lied. I'm really sorry, Galani. It's not that I don't want to help you, but this morning we received an internal memo. All vendors are forbidden from doing business with Galani Mabeso due to a matter of fraud and embezzlement. If I help you, my company could lose the contract with Okuro Global, and you know that contract is 60% of my income. Jelani fell silent. He gripped the phone tight. I had truly closed all the doors for him. David, we've been friends since college. I need it for food. I'm sorry, Galani. I have a family to feed. I can't risk it. Good luck.
Click.
Jelani called a second friend, a third, a fourth. The answer was the same. By noon, Jelani was sitting dejected on a park bench. He had spent $10 on calls for nothing. He saw the high buildings of Midtown in the distance. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. A WhatsApp message from an unknown number. A photo. A photo of Galani sitting pensively in the park taken from afar. Then, a text message. You look tired, baby. The administrative assistant vacancy at our branch is still open. If you're interested, the salary is minimum wage, but it's enough to buy milk for the baby. Call HR if you want to swallow your pride. K. Jelani threw the phone onto the grass. He screamed with all his might. He didn't care that people looked at him like he was crazy. His shame had vanished. Only a dense despair remained. He knew I was watching him. I was enjoying every second of his suffering. Back at the boarding house that afternoon, Nimra was bored out of her mind. The internet signal was terrible. She craved something fresh, fruit or juice. She left the room. Downstairs, Mrs. Walker was watching TV at full volume.
She went out to the alley.
She saw a fruit stand surrounded by flies. It grossed her out. On the way back, she saw a small cosmetic shop. Her eyes brightened. She had run out of face wash.
She went in.
On the display were cheap products. No Lair or Sisley. Do you have a face wash for sensitive skin? Namra asked. The clerk offered her a pink plastic bottle. This one is very good. Only $3. Namra rolled her eyes. $3. Her face wash used to cost $100, but her face felt sticky. She searched her purse. She had $5 left of the money Jelani had given her. She bought it. In the room, she washed her face in the smelly bathroom. As she applied the cheap soap, she felt a sting.
Heat. Ah.
Namra screamed. She rinsed quickly. The skin on her face turned red, and welts appeared. My face. What's happening to my face? She screamed hysterically. The water there wasn't suitable for her skin, which was used to clinic treatments, and the cheap soap likely contained harsh ingredients. Jelani arrived when Namra was screaming at the mirror. What now? Jelani shouted, tired after a day of rejections. Look, Jelani, my face is ruined. The water here is dirty. The soap is terrible. I want to go to a dermatologist. Ask Kumari for money or sell a kidney, but do something. I don't want to be ugly. Jelani looked at Namra's red and swollen face. Instead of compassion, he felt nausea. Dermatologist. Jelani laughed bitterly. Listen, Namra, tomorrow we don't even know if we'll have food, and you're worrying about your face. You're useless. Namra threw the bottle of soap at him. I regret marrying you in secret. If I had known, I would have stayed as Mr. Woody's mistress. Smack. A hard slap landed on Namra's cheek. Silence. Namra touched her cheek with wide eyes. Jelani stood with heavy breathing. His trembling hand had just hit a pregnant woman. But Namra's words had just destroyed the last remains of his male ego. Don't you ever mention another man in front of me again. Jelani hissed. My fortune, my career, my perfect wife. All gone because of you. A piece of trash like you. Jelani turned around, grabbed a pillow, and walked out of the room. Where are you going, Galani? Namra shouted. To sleep outside. I'm sick of looking at your face. Jelani slammed another door, leaving Namra crying alone in the narrow room with her face ruined and her heart broken. In the dark hallway, Jelani curled up on some old newspapers, trying to sleep, surrounded by mosquitoes, lamenting his fate. And in the distance, on a security camera screen, I smiled with satisfaction. The isolation phase is over, I whispered. Next phase, hunger. 3 weeks had passed since Galani and Namra were expelled from their paradise. 3 weeks that felt like 3 centuries. The boarding house room now seemed even smaller and more suffocating. The air was stale. A pile of laundry was building up in a corner. Jelani was sitting on the edge of the sunken mattress. He was thinner, his cheekbones sharp. His designer shirts had been sold at a flea market. Now he only wore a basic t-shirt and shorts. Baby. Namra's voice sounded weak from under the blanket. Jelani turned. Namra's condition was much worse. Her face, once flawless, was full of red, inflamed marks. The infection had turned into small, painful sores. What? Galani replied in a hoarse voice. My stomach hurts so much, Galani. Cramps and my face is burning. It itches like it's on fire. Hold on. I'm thinking. Jelani cut her off. Thinking about what? We need a doctor. I'm out of ointment. Namra started to cry. Money. Where would he get the money? Namra. They were at zero. They had $5 left in the wallet. It was only enough for one day's food. The money from the watch sale and the cash had evaporated into rent, Namra's medicines, and her still lavish lifestyle during the first week. Sell something else of yours. Your leather shoes. I already sold them to pay for the electricity. Jelani snapped. Silence. Jelani looked at his left ring finger. One last thing was still shining there. His wedding ring, the platinum band with a small diamond, the symbol of his sacred bond with the wife he betrayed. He tried to take the ring off. It was difficult. Finally, the ring came off, leaving a white mark on his skin. I'm going out for a bit. Jelani stood up. Baby, buy me something to eat when you come back, please. Jelani didn't answer. He slammed the door and walked out into the heat. In a jewelry shop, Galani laid the ring on the glass counter with a trembling hand. Papers? The jeweler asked. I don't have them. I lost them in the move. Jelani lied. Well, it's a nice piece. Platinum European diamond, but without papers, I can't pay much. $200. I'll melt it. Jelani stared at him. It cost me $2,500. That's the store price. Resale is low, especially without papers. You want it or not? Jelani clenched his fist. $200 was a humiliation, but Namra's sore face and his own empty stomach came to mind.
Fine.
200 in cash now. Jelani walked out of the jewelry shop with the money. He felt empty. His last link to me had been sold to feed his mistress. He bought a generic antibiotic ointment and prenatal vitamins. Then he bought 2 daily specials. Today he wanted to eat a little better. When he got to the boarding house, he fed Namra, who was lying down weakly. "Baby, how much money do we have left?"
She asked.
"About 180. Enough for 2 weeks if we save, but next month the water bill is due, and you aren't working. Are you going to keep being lazy?" The question stabbed Jelani. Hundreds of resumes sent. 0 responses. Galani Mabeso's name was blacklisted thanks to my network. "I'm working tomorrow," Galani said suddenly. "Working as what?" "As a director again." Namra Unk's eyes brightened. "You'll see." The next morning, Galani was standing in front of a construction site. The cement, dust, and the noise of concrete mixers greeted him. He wore clothes bought at the flea market. He went to the foreman. "You want work? You have an office worker's body.
You won't last."
"I need the money, boss. I'll do anything. Carrying cement, mixing sand, whatever, as long as I get paid daily," Jelani pleaded. The director's arrogance had vanished.
"Fine.
"We need a laborer to carry cement mixed to the 3rd floor all day with a bucket. $50 a day, lunch included. $50. Before that was the price of a coffee and a croissant. Now it was the price of his back for a whole day. "I'll take it, boss." Jelani's hell began. In the first hour, he felt like his arms were going to break. The bucket of cement weighed a ton. He had to climb up and down makeshift ladders with his legs shaking. "Hey, faster. The bricklayer is waiting," they shouted from above. His hands, once soft, began to blister. At noon during the break, Galani sat on a pile of bricks. His body was destroyed. He looked at his lunch, rice, beans, and a piece of hard bread. He ate it with hands dirty with cement. Hunger wouldn't let him think about hygiene. While he was eating, a luxury black sedan drove slowly past the site. The back window was cracked open. Jelani choked. Inside the car was me. His wife talking on the phone, looking serious but beautiful and polished. The car was only 15 feet from where Jelani was sitting on the ground like a beggar. Jelani turned quickly, hiding his face. An overwhelming shame hit him. Don't see me," his mind screamed.
The car passed by.
I didn't turn around. For me, construction workers were just part of the urban landscape. That afternoon, Galani returned home with his body in pieces. In his pocket were 50 wrinkled dollars. He entered the room. "Why so late? Where is my dinner?" Namra shouted. Jelani threw the bill onto the floor. "There's the money. Buy it yourself." He collapsed onto the mattress. Namra picked up the bill with disgust. "Only $50. What did you work as to earn this pittance?" "I'm a laborer, Namra. A construction laborer. Happy now?" Silence. Namra stood open-mouthed. "A laborer? My husband. A laborer. How embarrassing. What if my friends find out?" "What friends?" Jelani whispered with bitterness. "The high society ones who blocked you, or the ones who laugh at us on WhatsApp." Namra went silent and started to cry again. "I can't live like this, Jelani. I want my old life back." "Enjoy it, Namra. This is the paradise we built on Kumari's tears. Enjoy every second." Galani fell asleep from exhaustion. Meanwhile, in a luxury restaurant, I was having dinner with my lawyer. "The divorce petition is in process, Ms. Okoro." The first summons was sent to Mr. Mabeso's address, but of course, it was returned. "We'll send a courier to locate him." "No need, counselor," I smiled. "I know exactly where he is." I showed him a photo taken that noon. A photo of a dirty and defeated Jelani carrying cement. The lawyer shook his head. What a quick fall. From director to laborer in less than a month. That's called instant karma. But this isn't over. $50 a day won't be enough for Namra's delivery, and she'll need medical attention soon. When that happens, Jelani will do something desperate. And when he does, that's when we'll make sure he ends up behind bars. Back at the boarding house at midnight, Namra woke up with a sharp pain in her abdomen. It wasn't a normal cramp. Jelani. Jelani. She shook her husband's body. Jelani, it hurts. There's blood. She screamed hysterically, seeing a fresh blood stain on the sheet. Jelani woke up with a start. What blood? The baby, Galani? Namra cried out in pain. Jelani panicked. He knew it was a bad sign.
To the hospital now.
Jelani took Namra in his arms. He ran down the stairs. In the deserted alley, there were no taxis. Help please, he shouted. A neighbor with a beat-up truck came out. My wife is bleeding. Take us to the nearest hospital, please. Inside the rattling vehicle, Jelani hugged Namra, who was starting to lose consciousness. Upon arriving at the emergency room of the public hospital, the nurses took Namra away. Jelani was stopped at the administration desk. Family of the patient, do you have insurance?
No.
Then you need a deposit, minimum $3,000 for an emergency procedure or admission for hemorrhaging. Jelani's knees buckled. In his pocket, he only had $100 left. I only have $100, ma'am. Please treat her first. It's a human life. I'm sorry, sir. Those are the rules. Find the rest of the money. Meanwhile, we will stabilize the patient in the hallway. Jelani backed away. He saw Namra on a gurney in a crowded hallway, groaning in pain without serious attention. He needed $2,900 more. Now he walked out of the hospital. His mind was blank, his heart dark. Across the street, he saw a 24-hour convenience store that was empty. Just a young cashier who looked sleepy. A demon whispered an idea to him. A crazy idea that would turn him from poor to criminal. Jelani picked up a brick from the ground, crossed the street, and headed for the store. Give me the money fast, Jelani shouted with a broken voice. He waved the brick with a trembling hand. The cashier screamed, backing away, scared. I need the money. My wife is dying.
Fast.
Put it in a bag. The girl, terrified, emptied the money from the register. Jelani snatched the bag, but before he could turn around, the automatic door opened. 2 police officers walked in, pointing their weapons at him. Behind them was Kofi, with an impassive face holding a phone. I had put them under 24-hour surveillance. Hands up. Drop the weapon. A police officer shouted. Galani stood paralyzed. The brick fell from his hand. I just wanted to help my wife, he moaned as they threw him to the floor and handcuffed his hands. At the same time in the hospital, Namra waited. Nobody took her to the operating room. Jelani didn't return with the money. A nurse approached, but with bad news. Ma'am, your husband has just been arrested for trying to rob a store. Namra's world went dark. The stress triggered the final contraction. Her body convulsed. The fetus, her only hope of tying Jelani down, was lost that night. When she woke up in the morning, she saw her reflection. The infection on her skin had worsened. Her beautiful face was now full of purulent scars that would be permanent. Her beauty, her main asset, had vanished. 2 days later, at the police station, Galani was sitting in the interrogation room. He wore an orange inmate uniform. The door opened. A luxury perfume filled the room. It was me. Elegant, unreachable. I sat in front of him. Kumari, please help me withdraw the complaint. I did it for Namra. She was bleeding. I looked at him without emotion. Namra already left the hospital, I said calmly. She lost the baby. Her family back in the country refuses to take her in because of the shame. Now she wanders the streets with her face ruined. She hasn't even come to see you. Jelani broke into tears. I'm sorry, Kumari. I regret it. I want to come back to you. I laughed softly. Come back? Do you think this is a recycling center? I laid a folder on the table. It's the divorce decree. Sign it. You'll face multiple charges. Embezzlement, theft. You're looking at least 10 years in prison. Kumari, how can you? I was your husband. Ex-husband? I corrected. I leaned in and whispered in his ear. Enjoy prison. It's the house you built yourself with the bricks of your own greed. Don't wait for me, because to me you're already dead. I turned around and left without looking back, leaving Jelani shouting my name until the guards took him back to his cell. 3 years later in Atlanta, I was walking out of my imposing office building. I had just won the Entrepreneur of the Year award. I smiled and got into my new Mercedes. At a red light, my car stopped. On the sidewalk, amidst the dust and exhaust, a thin woman with a face full of scars and tattered clothes was begging for money. It was Namra. And not far from there, behind the high walls of a federal penitentiary, a thin prisoner was cleaning the bathroom floors of the cell block. It was Galani. He had become the errand boy for other inmates in exchange for a cigarette. The luxury car accelerated, leaving behind a rotten past toward a bright future. The queen had returned to her throne alone, but with total control of her life. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.